Hi, I'm Andrew Moy from TightlinesFlyFishing.com. Today we're going to be talking about the tube fly system, Protube. And Protube has a wide range of products that are really great for tying tube flies. And I'm just going to go over real quick some of those products. One is, these are called Flexi tubes, and they come in basically different sizes. Small, medium, this is a medium here. They come in large and extra large. And basically, it's going to basically determine the length of the what's called the junction tubing section here, which is this section here is your junction tubing section. This is the section you're going to actually tie your fly on. And they also come with different size weights. So these weights can be added by simply just putting them onto the tube like that, and you can tie right over the top of that. You can actually tie in front of that, use that as your body. There's a lot of different ways of going about this. Again, different size. So this is a little bit smaller weight here. And then you have different cones and cone heads. Some of these are called discs. This here is called a soft disc. It's pliable. It's a disc shape, and this is basically used at the end of the fly in the front to push water away from the fly, so that when this fly is swimming through the water, that water is getting pushed away, and it's allowing the material behind it to move. They make ones now that are slotted, like this. It's called a sonic disc. Okay, it's got holes in it, and same thing, that slides right on. Those holes allow water to go through and actually it pushes some water away and lets some water go through, so that wing and stuff behind it really move well. Some of these are actually metal. So this is a metal cone here, okay, and that also just gets slid right on the front. And then there's some that are more dense and heavy. I have only a small one here in front of me, but they make these in larger sizes as well. Okay, that's a metal disc, or a cone. And then they have different size shapes on their weights as well. So this is like a weight forward. So you can put that on this way so that it weights the front of the fly more. So you could tie your fly here, maybe put that on, and then put a disc in front of it. There's all different types of things you could do. You could put it on this way if you wanted to, if you felt the fly would balance better that way. You know, it's all up to you, and there's a lot of different things you can do. They also have what's called a micro tube, like this one here. And this is just a real simple one. It's very small, compact. It really makes a nice small fly. This is the back section of the fly. This is junction tubing. So when you're done with the fly, you would put a piece of that on to accept your hook. This here is actually the section that you're tying the fly on here. So that's another system that Protube has available for purchase. And all this stuff is going to be available on our website. Again, TightlinesFlyFishing.com very shortly. So today I'm going to tie a steelhead pattern that I like a lot. It's really been effective for me. I've caught a lot of steelhead on it. And it's a pretty simple pattern, not very difficult to tie. I'm going to use the micro tube today for this particular fly. You could certainly use your flexi tubing if you wanted to. This is red. These tubes come in a wide range of colors. So I'm just going to start my thread. You could see there I just broke the thread rather than cutting it. Saves a little bit of time. Okay, and I'm going to come back right up against this section here, and that is used to stop some of your weights and stuff if you're going to put weight on it. I'm not going to put weight on this one today. So I'm going to start with mylar. Okay, this is flat mylar. It's gold on one side, and it's silver on the other side. I want the silver side to show. So when I tie this in, and I've cut this mylar on an angle like that, so it's got a sharp edge here. I'm going to advance that forward like that, and I'm going to tie it off. The next thing I'm going to use is a pheasant crest. Okay, I'm going to use that, and you can use it in red or orange. You could use it in yellow. I typically like red or orange. Today I'm going to use an orange. Okay, and I'm just going to do a few loose wraps over it like that, and the curve on that is facing up, and the point of it is facing back. The stem is facing forward. And I'm just going to pull that underneath my thread wraps to get it to the length I want, which is going to be about like that, about maybe 4 lengths of your tag there, your silver section. And I'm going to wrap this forward to keep the body thickness uniform. And then I'm going to use a size 14 Mylar. So the one I used for the back here was 12. This one is a 14. So I'm going to use a 14 here. And then I'm going to use a purple floss. And I'm tying the Mylar in first in the front here. I'm going to keep the body thickness uniform by tying it in like this. And then I'm going to use a purple floss, and I'm going to double that floss over. This is a uni floss that I'm using. You could use any floss that you want. This pattern, I'm using a purple. You could certainly use blue or some other color. What I'm going to do is I'm going to walk both of these back at the same time, all the way back to my tail. And once I'm all the way up against my tail, I bring my thread back forward again. So now by bringing both of those all the way down the shank, it's basically keeping that body thickness uniform, rather than just tying it in the back and having a lump in the back of the fly. So I'm gonna wrap this floss forward. Just keeping it relatively tight to one another, each wrap going forward. And then I'm going to tie that off. Trim that. And then I'm going to wrap my tinsel. And I should get 5 turns of tinsel through here. That third one will go right in the middle. That last one right there. I'm going to tie that off. I'm going to take a little bit of purple SLF dubbing. And I'm just going to wrap a little section here, just for a little bit of glitter. This will help push that hackle, the hackle that I'm going to put in next. It's going to help stand that hackle up a little bit. Now I'm selecting a hackle, and I want this hackle to be almost the length of the body, a little bit shorter than the length of the body. And as a right-handed tire, I'm going to hold this in my right hand like this, and I'm going to stand the hackle up like this. I'm going to hold it like that, and I'm going to trim away that tip. I'm going to leave a little bit of a nub here to tie in. And without letting go of this hackle, I'm going to go ahead and tie that right in there. And then that hackle is going to get folded. I'm going to stand that hackle up. You can see my hackle's already got the cup facing this way. So I'm going to take my left hand now and just fold that hackle, like so. And then wrap it. And each time I come around, I'm just folding it, and just keeping it folded back. I'm going to do about maybe 3 turns of hackle or so. And you can do more or less depending on how sparse or heavy you want your fly. And then again, I'm going to tie that off. Come in, watch you don't cut your thread. Trim your hackle. If there's any stragglers, you can pull those hackles back and wrap. Okay. Now before I tie my wing in, I'm going to take a little section of this hackle out. I'm going to trim it right out of the top. Not the sides, not the bottom, just the top. And that's just going to allow my wing to sit in between there. Now if you want, you don't have to, but if you like a little flash in your fly, if the water's a little dirty, you can always trim flash out. You can't add it once the fly is tied. You could always decide, hey, I don't want the flash, the fish or shine away from it, and trim it out. So we're going to actually tie it in today. So I'm going to lay that up, and that's going to go in next. A little bit longer than the tail. Again, if you make it a little long, this is something that you can trim out or trim shorter. And if you notice there, when I tied it in, and then I fold the butts over. That way, this can, if you see that, see how I fold that over, tie that off. That way it can't pull out. It doesn't require me to use a lot of thread to lock it in. And that's it. Now for a wing, I'm going to use Arctic Fox. This is Arctic Fox Zonker. It comes on a skin. I'm not going to use a skin. I'm actually going to cut this off the skin. But it's nice. It's easy to work with. You can see by basically just selecting a section of this, I've basically got exactly what I need, rather than trying to pull it off a whole skin or a whole patch. So I'll just take about how much I need, which is, a moderate amount. You may want it sparser, you may want it heavier. That's for you to decide. Again, if you add a little bit too much in your fishing, you can always cut it out. If you tie it sparser than you might need or might think you need, you can't add material once the fly is tied. So we're going to lay this over, and we want this to be maybe a touch longer than the tail. So I've basically laid my wing up, I've measured it, and I'm going to switch hands here. And now my left hand is holding the wing, and you can see my fingertips are lining up right with the front of the hackle. So I know that is the starting point of my wing. So I'm going to trim this square, leaving a little bit of, trim that nice and square, like so. And then I can come in and tie that in right in front of that hackle. And I'm going to try and keep my thread wraps down to a minimum. That's it, done. Don't overwrap. And I'm leaving, if you noticed here, I left a little bit of the Protube here. That'll allow me to put cones on the front of this if I decide that's something I want to do. So I'm going to tie that off. So now, again, if I want, I decide I can always put a cone onto the front of this, like so, and that'll deflect, water away from that wing and allow that wing to really move. Now, again, I can alternate my wings. I don't know if I mentioned this actually. I can alternate my wing from white and black. I use the same exact fly. I just change my wing color from white to black depending on my light conditions. So if it's right before dark, or if it's a real cloudy day, I'll use a black wing. If it's midday, bright sun, I use a white wing. So you can alternate your wings depending on your light conditions. And I find that really is effective for catching fish. So there you go. There's your Protube. Very simple to fly, very effective pattern.